At the beginning of the story, we see a notorious thief named Morris. He is arrested by the police for bank robbery and is being taken to Alcatraz, the world's most secure prison, to serve life imprisonment. Alcatraz is a prison built on a small island in the middle of the ocean. Even if a prisoner breaks out, he cannot escape because the water blocks his path. This is why this prison was considered the world's most secure prison. Only the world's top criminals were held here. But soon, this prison's reputation was about to be tarnished. Now, a notorious thief named Frank Morris, who had escaped prison several times before, had entered this prison. But this time, Morris was a little nervous because this prison was extremely secure. But Morris wasn't going to spend his entire life here. He wanted to escape from this prison as soon as possible. As soon as he entered, Morris began to think about escaping. After a thorough check from head to toe, Morris was locked in a cell. A guard came and told Morris, "Welcome to Alcatraz." And this is where the real story begins. Suddenly, a bell rang and all the cell gates opened automatically. The officers called the prisoners out. Discipline in this prison is also very strict. Prisoners must follow rules regarding cleanliness and entering their cells on time. Everyone wears the same uniform and stands in line to eat breakfast. A prisoner named Litmus stands in front of Morris. Morris asks, "I haven't found a fork. How will I eat noodles now?" Litmus tells him, "Hey, this isn't your house. Eat what you've got, quietly." Just then, a dangerous prisoner named Wolf begins to tease Morris. Every prisoner in the prison was fed up with Wolf. He used to dictate terms to every single prisoner and has numerous rape charges against him. This prison houses some of the most dangerous prisoners. Litmus asks Morris for some food and Morris offers him his plate. When Morris looks under the table, he realizes that Litmus isn't eating himself, but giving it to a rat. That night, a guard takes Morris to the warden. When Morris arrives at the warden's office, the warden tells him, "I know you're very sharp-minded and very intelligent. But what good is all that here? So many people like you have come and gone, but no one has ever escaped." The prisoners follow very strict rules. You can only visit once a month, and that too only if I'm in a good mood. The warden is a very strict man who punishes prisoners for even the slightest offense. The warden says, "Don't even think of escaping. Otherwise, you'll be torn to pieces." To which Morris replies, "No, sir. Who could even think of escaping here with you around?" But in reality, Morris had been planning his escape from day one. Seeing an opportunity, Morris steals the warden's nail cutter, a seemingly insignificant item. But Morris knew that in a prison like Alcatraz, even such a small nail cutter could be used for significant purposes. Returning to his cell, Morris hides the nail cutter in a Bible. The next day, Wolf begins harassing Morris again in the bathroom. But this time, Morris is undeterred. Now, Morris reveals his true colors, catches him, and gives him a thorough beating. After beating Wolf, Morris now has a special status in the prison. Everyone starts to fear him. Morris is then assigned to work in the library. There he meets a man named English, a senior inmate. English, who was also sentenced to life imprisonment for the murder of 2 men, spent half his life in this prison. He knows every nook and cranny of the prison. He is aware of everything that happens in the prison. He even knows that Morris and Wolf had a fight that morning. He gives Morris some books, which Morris must deliver to each prisoner's cell. The next scene shows an open space where the prisoners are playing games. Then he meets an artist named Doc, who is painting his own painting. Doc is a simple and decent man who has been serving his sentence here for many years. He was very fond of painting and spent most of his time doing it. Doug said that anyone could go crazy in a prison like Alcatraz. But because of his painting, he has remained calm ever since. His mind is functioning normally. Morris asks Dog why there's a flower in the painting. "There's nothing like that on your shirt." Dog replies, "It's my happiness, which is only in the painting, not in my heart." Then when Morris looks to his right, he sees English standing above him. Morris walks toward English. When Morris approaches, his disciples stop him. English gestures. "He's our man. Let him come." Morris sits down next to him and immediately pours out his heartfelt secret. Morris asks him, "You'll help me escape from here." English laughs at this. "Look, son, this isn't just a prison. This is our grave. If we want to get out of here, we'll have to die first. Only then will our dead bodies be able to reach the cemetery. Let's assume you climb these massive walls and then cross these dangerous fortresses, and by some magical power escape the hundreds of guards and break out of prison. Even then, you won't be able to escape because the sea will block your path. So, don't waste time and quietly serve your sentence. At least you'll survive." But Morris was determined. He wanted to escape from this prison at all costs. That night, an officer tells Morris that he's been given carpentry work starting tomorrow. He'll be paid a cent an hour. Morris immediately agrees to the job because he thinks he might find a tool there that could be useful in his escape. The next day, Morris asks Litmus for a way to escape. Litmus says, "Oh, it's very easy. Every cell has an air vent. You can reach the roof through it. You might be able to escape from there." Smiling at Morris's words, he leaves. Then Doc warns Morris that Wolf is coming for you. Just then, Wolf comes to stab Morris. Morris wraps his coat around his arm and starts fighting with him. A guard comes to stop him, and Wolf stabs the guard as well. Things escalate, and the watchtower guard starts shooting. Only then do Morris and Wolf stop fighting. Morris didn't know there was a guard on the watchtower. He begins to notice everything about the prison, one by one. The guards take Morris and Wolf to D Block, where prisoners are kept in the dark and tortured all night. This was a cell no prisoner wanted to go to. Before leaving, Wolf threatens Morris, saying, "Son, your death will be at my hands." That night, Morris endures various tortures, leaving him in a very bad condition. After 2 weeks in this dark cell, he is brought back to his cell. Litmus sends Morris a note through his pet rat, saying, "Welcome back, Morris." One day, a new prisoner named Charlie arrives and is placed in the cell next to Morris's. Morris and Charlie quickly become friends. Morris then introduces him to his other friends. At the same time, the warden, without informing anyone, checks each prisoner's cell. When he goes to Dog's cell, he finds several paintings by Dog. The warden is amazed to see that Dog's paintings are increasing day by day. Dog has even painted a painting of the warden. The warden smiles at the sight, but he doesn't know why. The next day, the warden orders the guards to throw out all the paintings in Doug's cell. This decision completely shatters Doug, who was alive only because of his paintings. He loved each and every one of his paintings because it was his only joy here, and even that was taken away from him. Morris explains to him that it's okay. It was just a painting. You can make more. But Doug is unable to recover from the shock. The next day, when he sees him, Morris tells the guard to please keep an eye on Doug. He looks very distressed. He might harm himself. The guard then tells Morris to mind his own business. Doug is also assigned to work as a carpenter alongside Morris. Just then, Doug secretly puts something in Morris's pocket. He then calls a guard and chops off 3 of his fingers with the axe he's given for carpentry, saying, "I don't need those fingers that I can't paint with." He starts screaming. The guards then grab him and take him away. Morris sees that Doug has put the same flour he used to paint in his coat. Perhaps he wants to tell Morris, "These people have taken away my happiness." Morris picks up Doug's severed fingers, puts them in a box, and looking at the guard says, "Go give it to your warden. He'll be very happy to see it." The next day, Morris is sitting in his cell when he sees that a cockroach is seen going inside the air vent, which gives him the idea that there must be a way out. Just then, English arrives and explains that the dog bit his own fingers because his painting permission was revoked. He was fed up and cut his fingers. Morris is furious. The next day, in the dining hall, the warden asks Morris why he's supporting the dog so much. He says nothing of the sort. Morris returns to his table. There he meets 2 brothers, John and Clarence. But Morris speaks to them as if he already knows them. John and Clarence were actually in Morris's gang in another prison. Escaping from prison now seems easier to John because these 2 brothers are as sharp-minded as Morris, and the 3 of them begin planning their escape. In the afternoon, Charlie's girlfriend comes to visit him. Meanwhile, English's daughter has come to visit him. Upon seeing her, English's eyes well up with tears, as she had grown up considerably in his absence, and English deeply regretted missing out on her childhood. Meanwhile, Charlie's wife tells him that his mother is very ill, and the doctors say she won't live more than a month. Hearing this, Charlie begins to consider escaping from Alcatraz, but a guard arrives and tells him that the time for discussion is over. Charlie is deeply troubled. That night, he tells Morris that if he plans to escape, he should include him. The next day, Morris, Charlie, John, and Clarence meet. Morris explains that every cell's air vent opens onto the roof, and that this place is surrounded by a saltwater ocean, weakening the walls. "I have a nail cutter and I've already started digging. If I dig little by little and make a small tunnel to the roof, after inspecting this place, I'll know how to escape." John asks, "If the guards find out you're not in your cell at night, won't they get suspicious?" Clarence then reveals that he has a solution. He says, "I know a barber here who cuts the prisoner's hair. He can supply us with hair, and using that, we can make a dummy head and lay it on the bed. After that, even if we escape through the tunnel in the wall and end up on the roof, the guards won't suspect because there will be fake heads on our cell beds." But the question still lingered. We could escape the prison, but how would we cross the sea? Morris tells John, Look, I'm going to need your help with this. You work in the closing department. You'll find raincoats made for those police officers there. So steal some and give them to me. We can make a tube boat and a life jacket from them and cross the ocean. Charlie then says, Brother, give me some work too. I want to help you guys, Morris tells Charlie. You keep watch while I dig the ventilation grill so no guards see us. And I'll keep watch while you dig. Everyone likes Morris's plan and they start working that very night. However, the nail cutter was too small to dig the wall. Morris had to use a lot of force to operate it, and he was having a hard time digging. He even got a small piece in his hand, but he slowly began digging the hole. The next day, he tells his friends at the dinner table, I need a bigger tool for digging. It's too hard to use nail cutters to break through the wall. Morris then looks at the spoon in his hand and gets an idea. He deliberately rubs it on his shoe, dirtying it. Morris then calls the guard and says, This spoon is dirty. Give me another one. The others also request the guard to replace their spoons. The guard finds nothing wrong and immediately allows them to do so. He then heads straight to the table where another security guard is sitting. But as he begins to replace the spoons on the table, John distracts the guard. Morris takes advantage of this by picking up 2 spoons instead of 1, hiding one in his pocket. He then goes straight to his cell. That night, when English comes to give him the book, Morris asks if he can find any welding equipment. English understands that Morris is still obsessed with escaping from prison. He says, I've told you before that your attempt will be futile because you'll get caught and possibly lose your life. In all these years, I've never thought of escaping because I know it's impossible. But if you're stubborn, what can I do? Try. But Morris doesn't care about his warning. The next day, he asks Litmus for matches and says, If you help me, I'll give your rat his share of food every day. Litmus happily accepts the deal because Litmus loved rats. That very night, Litmus passes Morris his matches. Morris removes a nail cutter handle, using it to make a small shovel. He then breaks a spoon and attaches it to the nail cutter handle. He strikes a match and welds the two together, creating a sharp tool. Then he starts digging around the vent. Charlie stands guard. If a guard approaches, he will immediately whistle to signal Morris. But while he's on guard, Charlie dozes off and a guard appears. Luckily, English intervenes and distracts the guard. Charlie, listening to English's conversation, also wakes up. But due to his tension, he can't even whistle and he drops something. Morris, taking his cue, covers the vent and lies down on the bed. The guard asks, Is there a burning smell here? Morris says, Sir, how dare anyone smoke around you? I can't think of anything. The guard is relieved, thinking, At least someone respects me. As soon as he leaves, Morris removes the concrete around the vent. But he notices that screws have been driven into the ventilation grill, which would require a sharp tool to cut. Whenever Morris gets a chance to go outside, he discreetly drops the cement that has come out of the grill. The next day, while working as a carpenter, he picks up a piece of metal that's as sharp as a knife. But Charlie asks him, How will you take it out without being detected by the metal detector? Morris confidently says, I'll take care of everything. When Morris goes out, the metal detector at the door starts ringing. Morris had actually brought the metal in his hand. The guard asks, Why are you carrying it? Morris says, Sir, I thought I'd use it to hang clothes. The guard says, Don't be smart and give it to me. The guard takes the metal from him and, after thoroughly checking Morris, lets him go. But our hero is a hero. He actually stole 2 metals. He brought one in his hand and hid the other in his shoes. He cuts the grill with the sharp metal. Now it's time to make a fake head to fool the guards. For this, the 4 of them take on their own responsibilities. Charlie asks the guard for some paint. He tells him that he loves to make art. The guard doesn't refuse and brings him the paint. Morris grinds the concrete extracted from the hole into a powder. John collects hair from the barber shop and Clarence collects old books from the library. After gathering all the materials, Morris begins creating a dummy head using water and old magazines. He applies paint and fake hair to it, creating a completely realistic-looking fake head. To further strengthen his plan, Morris also created fake cardboard pieces so that no one would suspect that someone had dug a tunnel in the opposite wall. One night, Morris decides to go upstairs alone. He places his fake skull on the bed and covers it up to the neck with a blanket. He then climbs out of the tunnel with the fake cardboard. There, Morris slowly climbs up to the roof, holding onto the pipes. Meanwhile, Charlie is standing guard outside. Upon reaching the roof, Morris sees an iron grill that he can't reach even by jumping. Meanwhile, a guard arrives and asks Charlie, "Why are you painting so late at night? And why did your friend Morris go to bed so early?" Charlie says, "Yes, sir, Morris was tired from carpentry work today, so he went to bed early." Suddenly, the guard's stick falls from his hand. Picking it up, he notices that Morris's hair looks very strange. Charlie begins to tremble with fear, thinking he's done for today. The guard reaches into Morris's cell and touches his hair. Morris asks, "What happened, sir? Is my hair so beautiful?" Luckily, Morris came down and lay down there in time. The next day, Morris tells his friends that there's a way to the roof, but it's blocked by a grill, and that grill is at a very high altitude. "I need another partner's help." John then says, "I've completely dug my vent. I'll be there tonight, too." They'll open the grill together. That same night, Morris and John reach the roof through their vents. John lifts Morris, and Morris grabs the grill. John sees that the iron grill is very strong and completely welded. There's only one way to remove it, and that's to cut it with a drill. The next day, in music class, everyone is playing their favorite instrument. Just then, Morris notices a small fan kept there. Seeing it, Morris thinks he can work with it to make a drill machine. He tells Charlie to somehow hide the fan away. Charlie easily hides the small fan in his instrument box. When Charlie emerges, the guards check his instrument box, but they don't see the fan, and Charlie is let go. As soon as Morris finds the fan, he begins working on it. After several hours, he fashions a drill from it. That night, Morris and Charlie climb onto the roof and begin cutting the iron rod with the drill. The drill's noise was so loud that the guards, hearing the sound, rush up. But by then, Morris has cut a rod in the grill and the drilling noise stops. After the drilling stops, the guard ignores him and goes back. Now these four have opened all their escape routes. They were about to escape from Alcatraz, the world's most secure prison, from which no one has ever escaped. The next day, they have another meeting, in a movie hall where everyone is watching a movie. Amid the sound of the movie, Morris asks John and Clarence if their vent is ready and what happened to the raincoats they were going to make into tubes and life jackets. They say everything is ready. Even their dummy heads are ready. It's just a matter of escape. The next morning, during breakfast, Morris places the flower Doug gave them on the table. When the warden sees the pool, he comes to their table and crushes it. This enrages Litmus, who was Doug's favorite flower and was already dead. Litmus angrily attacks him, saying, "You killed Doug, and you're not leaving even a small memento he gave you." But as he attacks the warden, he suddenly suffers a heart attack and collapses. Morris is furious with the warden, and the four of them decide to escape that very night. Morris is waiting for midnight so that the guards' vigilance will weaken a bit, allowing them to escape easily. Just then, in Morris's cell, English gives him some books. Morris says, "I want to shake hands with you one last time." English understands that Morris has made a firm plan to escape. He quietly leaves. But what happens next is something Morris hadn't imagined. The warden suddenly comes to check his cell, as if someone had informed him of his plan. Morris becomes extremely nervous because after so many months of hard work, all his hard work is about to go to waste. The warden orders every corner of Morris's cell checked. The guard checks every single thing in Morris's cell. But Morris wasn't just any ordinary prisoner making a simple plan. Instead, he had created a very clear and perfect plan, one that not even the warden, let alone the warden's grandfather, could detect. Even when the guards removed the suitcase from the specific spot where Morris had created the tunnel to escape, Morris was not caught because he had already made a fake cardboard one and fitted it precisely to the wall. When they found nothing there, the warden and guards left. But the guards explained that Morris and Charlie had been talking all night. "I suspect something fishy." The warden said, "Okay, tomorrow you change Morris's cell so they can't be together or talk." The next day, at breakfast, Wolf threatened Morris again, telling him that tonight would be his last night. Morris told his friends that the idiot was right. "Tonight will be my last night here." But that afternoon, Wolf goes to stab Morris. Just then, English intervenes and grabs Wolf. Actually, English also wants to help Morris. Whether he succeeds or not, English will be responsible for Morris's work. He wants to help. That night, Morris, John, Clarence, and Charlie decide to escape through their respective vents and meet on the roof. Charlie agrees to escape with his companions, but as soon as he reaches his cell, he begins to panic. Sitting alone in his cell, he decides not to participate in the plan, while his 3 remaining companions escape through their respective vents and reach the roof. The 3 wait for Charlie for a long time, but after a considerable time, when they realize Charlie won't return, they decide to leave Charlie behind. The 3 proceed with their plan. But Charlie's dream of freedom is fading away before his eyes. The 3 slowly begin to escape, hiding from the searchlight. In this way, they reach the end of the building. Just then, Charlie, sitting in his cell, feels inspired and decides to escape. He escapes through his vent and reaches the roof. But it's too late, as he can't reach the door alone. Fear has cost him his chance at freedom. The 3 of them, on the other hand, hang from a pipe on the roof and reach the prison's final wall, avoiding the eyes of the security guard in the tower. Then, one by one, they climb the fence and escape. They run quickly to the seashore. They remove their raincoats and begin blowing air into them through their mouths. It's taking them a long time, but they have no other option. So, with all their might, the 3 finally inflate a tube boat made from a raincoat and launch it into the water. Thus, they escape, tarnishing Alcatraz's reputation. The next morning, a guard is checking each cell. Initially, everything appears normal to the guard. But when he reaches Charlie, he stands in his cell like a ghost, secretly taunting himself. If only he had mustered a little courage last night. He might have escaped with the others. The guard asks, "Why is your friend sleeping so late?" He goes to Morris's cell and calls out to him. But when Morris doesn't respond, the guard becomes enraged and opens the cell and tries to wake him up by the hair. But when the guard pulls it up hard, the head falls off. The guard is shocked to see Morris no longer confined to his cell, but enjoying the outside world. He had left his dummy head on the bed. Sirens begin blaring throughout Alcatraz. Word spreads throughout the prison that some prisoners have escaped. The warden then begins searching for the 3 prisoners in every corner of the prison. When they are not found inside, he launches a search operation in the ocean. The warden is incredulous that the 3 have escaped. He thinks they must have died in the water, but deep inside, the warden knows that they were very strong. Having crossed the ocean, they must now be breathing the air of freedom. The officers at headquarters are asking the warden question after question. "Were you sleeping when those 3 escaped?" The warden is very tense. But then he finds Dog's favorite flower. This means that Morris wanted to avenge Dog on the warden. Then the head of the search team comes and tells him, "Sir, every search has been conducted, but their bodies have not been found." Now, to save his job and his own image, the warden tells him to write the report as he says. Write that those 3 tried to escape, but they all drowned in the water. But no one believed Walton. After this, Morris became famous worldwide as a genius for breaking out of Alcatraz prison. A year after this incident, Alcatraz prison was closed because there was no longer any guarantee that no one could escape. Thus ends the film based on a true story.